Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Sunday. I hope the weekend is going well wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. Plenty to discuss today. We are now, 5 days away from the start of the European Championships. Plenty of international action last night. Again, a decent night for some Arsenal players. Gabriel Martinelli on target for Brazil. Leandro Trossard on target for Belgium. Lovely goal by Trossard, actually. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. We're going to talk about Santi Cazorla, who has been discussing a potential possible return to Arsenal. So talk about that as well. Got questions and comments from you guys on quite a few topics as well, reacting to Martin Odegaard being named Arsenal Player of the Season for the second successive year. We spoke about that in yesterday's show, and also Bukayo Saka and the awful treatment he was given by the newspapers after England's defeat against Iceland. But we'll start with Santi Cazorla, who has been speaking about a possible Arsenal return in wider sort of interviews he's been given ahead of Oviedo's playoff to try and get into La Liga. What a fantastic end, if this is the end, which we probably expect it might be, of his playing career, going out at his hometown club, winning the playoffs and getting them into La Liga. What an amazing end to an amazing career of a simply amazing footballer. I love Santi Cazorla, one of my favourite players of the Emirates era. Utterly convinced Arsenal would have won one, if not two, league titles had Santi not got injured in a couple of seasons. He was that crucial, that good, and the injuries in a couple of the seasons really stops Arsenal potentially getting their hands on some big silverware while he was at the club. He did win 2 FA Cups, of course, but this is what he's had to say, speaking to Sky Sports, about a potential return to Arsenal. It's something he's talked about in the past. He says, I have a very special affection for Arsenal. I spent 6 wonderful years there, and I know how much the people love me there. Of course, I was fortunate to share a dressing room with Mikel Arteta, and he is now the manager. We have had conversations about that, but right now I am not focused on anything other than contributing to this club, Oviedo, and continuing to enjoy football as a player. After that, we will see what the future holds for me. It is clear that Arsenal is a club that have always left the door open for me to return, but right now I have enough on my mind with the playoffs and trying to enjoy the last day of my playing career. Now, Santi has, of course, always spoken about how he would love to have one more appearance as a player for Arsenal, that he never got the opportunity to have that big sort of goodbye because of the horrible injury that he had. And then obviously just his contract ran out and we didn't get to say goodbye properly to Santi Cazorla. And that's always, judging by what he's had to say, you can tell that's always bothered him. And I'm not surprised. It's bothered me as a fan not being able to have a proper goodbye with Santi Cazorla. The possibility of him returning to the coaching staff at Arsenal is, obviously a very strong one. Him, as he says here himself, him and Mikel talk about it, have spoken about it in the past. They're very, very close. And when he does decide to hang up his boots as a player, which could potentially be at the end of this season, then there is a strong possibility, you would say, that there is going to be a coaching role open for Santi. Whether he takes it, we'll have to wait and see. But I mean, fantastic if he did come back to the club on Mikel's coaching staff and start sort of forging his new career as a coach rather than a player. I think it would be a huge welcome. What I would personally love to see, and this goes back to him not having a sort of goodbye moment as a player. He can still do it as a player. We're seeing that. He's been doing it for Oviedo this season. I would love if, and we don't know what the Emirates Cup's going to be yet, but if this is Santi's last season and he does retire at the end of the season, wouldn't it just be fantastic if he can come back and he can play in the Emirates Cup for Arsenal? I don't know, maybe you get the Villarreal or someone like that, or even Oviedo, probably not Oviedo, but maybe Villarreal as the other team who come and play in the Emirates Cup, and you have a big sort of Santi celebration at the Emirates Cup, and you have him maybe playing for Villarreal for one game at one half and one half for Arsenal or something like that, or certainly coming on for half an hour for Arsenal. Just be fantastic for everyone at the ground, for Santi to get his goodbye. And, he just deserves it. He absolutely deserves it. What a player he was for Arsenal. And the fact he didn't get that proper goodbye, I just think it's such a shame. And especially if he does call time in his playing career this summer, I think it'd be a wonderful opportunity to potentially bring him back for the Emirates Cup. Maybe it's just a pipe dream. Maybe that's being a bit too romantic when it comes to football, but it's something I would absolutely love to see. But who knows? If it doesn't happen, maybe soon, as he says here, we'll see him back on the coaching staff at Arsenal one day. And that'd be a fantastic thing, because one thing you know for Santi, he would be a good coach with players. You know, maybe not a manager, I don't know. But as a coach, sharing his experience, his quality, I just think it'd be a fantastic addition to any coaching staff. So, yeah, that's what Santi Cazorla has been saying about a potential Arsenal return. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Okay, William Saliba has been talking about a wide range of things, giving an interview for L'Equipe ahead of the Euros. And this is what he had to say a bit in terms of himself and his performance levels now for Arsenal. He says, I think I'm in the top 3 defenders in the league. We finished with the best defence. I watched a lot of matches. I'm a very humble person. But last season, just like this season, I am in the top 3 defenders. I need to continue to work to go even higher in terms of concentration. I'm a lot better. Before, I could play a top match, but in one phase of play, I slept a bit. That is no longer the case. I am always on alert. He was then talking about other defenders in the league who he compares himself to. And he said, look, Van Dijk has an aura. He's the boss. He commands everything. You can feel he's scaring the strikers away. And I'm starting to feel the same way. I think he's absolutely spot on there. I think strikers now are generally scared of William Saliba. When you look up and it's one-on-one and you've got Saliba coming up against you, I think you can see it in a striker's body language now. He just doesn't fancy it. He knows Saliba's going to stick out a foot. He's going to tackle him. If he knocks it past him, Saliba's got that recovery pace, that burst of acceleration to get him back clean as anything when it comes to making a tackle, as we've seen time and time again. We saw it in the France game the other day when he came on. He did that sort of trademark Saliba tackle that we've seen so much this season. And when he talks about that sort of aura and the fact that strikers can get scared of him, I think Van Dijk is a very good example of that. You've seen that over the years when strikers go up against Van Dijk and they'll try and take it past him. They'll do it so half-heartedly because they know it's not going to happen. I think Kyle Walker's exactly the same. You see strikers just shrink when they go up against Kyle Walker because they know they're not going to get past him. And even if they do get 2 yards on him, Walker's going to eat those 2 yards up and get back. And I think Saliba's definitely in there. And I think when he says I'm in the top 3 defenders of the league, I think he's being a bit modest there. I think he's number 1. I really do. I don't think there's a better centre-back in the league than William Saliba. And if there is, then it's a guy who stands about 2 foot away from him all day during a game. And that's in an Arsenal shirt. And that's Gabriel. I think the two of them are just absolutely fantastic. I wouldn't swap them for anyone in the Premier League. Van Dijk has been the star when it comes to a centre-back in the Premier League for a long, long time now. But I think there's a new boy in town, and it is William Saliba, and he's closely followed by Gabriel. I think they're absolutely fantastic, the pair of them. And long, long may they continue to be that partnership in the heart of the Arsenal defence. Okay, international roundup for you. As I said at the start, really good night for 2 of Arsenal's attackers, 2 of Arsenal's left-sided wingers. In fact, Gabriel Martinelli scoring again for Brazil. That's 2 goals in 3 games for Brazil now for Martinelli. Nice little finish in the penalty area after the ball was cut back to him. Leandro Trossard also scoring in there when I think it was against Luxembourg, 3-0. He got the 3rd goal at the end. Lovely little sort of run onto a ball over the top. Left foot controlled it and then whipped in a right foot finish. Really lovely finish, as usual, from Trossard. Excellent technique, really clean hit into the far corner to score. Perfect way for him to go into the Euros. I think Martin Odegaard got an assist for Norway as well. So a decent night last night for Arsenal in international football. No one, I don't think anyway, got injured, which is the most important thing, especially with some big tournaments coming up for both Brazil and Belgium and the other teams going into the summer. So yeah, good night for Arsenal when it comes to internationals. Okay, moving on to some of your questions and your comments now. It's one from Richard. Says, hi, Charles. Hope you're well. On my daily commute to Southampton, I always drive down a road called Charles Watts Way. Not sure if it's named after you. It's not, but believe me, I have had that picture of that road sign sent to me so many times in my life by people who've been driving down it and then spotted the name. He said, question, it was great when Declan decided to come to Arsenal over City. Do you feel the unknown outcome of the 115 charges impacted on his decision? And do you think it will put off players go into City this summer? It's an interesting one. No, first of all, in terms of do I think the outcome of the 115 charges impacted Declan Rice? I absolutely don't. I think Declan Rice just wanted Arsenal from the start, from the talks. He wanted Arsenal. He wanted to come here, wanted to play under Mikel Arteta. He was really impressed with Arteta. And that's why he was just solely focused on Arsenal. I don't think it was anything to do with 115 charges. Now, as that story gets bigger and bigger and we get closer and closer to it, it'll be interesting this summer if it does maybe have a little bit of an impact, because players signing this summer probably know that by November, a couple of months into signing, that there could well be a possibility that Manchester City are in real trouble if they get found guilty of these charges. And some severe sanctions could come their way, potentially even relegation. I don't know, obviously, but potentially even something like that if they are found guilty. And of course, they contest all the charges and say they are absolutely not guilty and that they're going to prove themselves innocent. If they do that, then fine. But if not, and they do face sanctions, then maybe players who are coming to the club will have that in the back of their mind. I think they probably, I think if you're a footballer, top level footballer, and you've got Pep Guardiola knocking on the door, Manchester City knocking on the door and offering you however much money to go and play for them at the moment, while that might be a consideration, it probably won't put them off, to be fair. I think them, like most of us, probably will think that Manchester City's huge team of expensive lawyers will get them out of it, or at least lessen any punishment that comes their way, and that they will be all right. But it's one to keep an eye on, I would suppose. But in terms of Declan, no, absolutely not. He just wanted Arsenal and he wanted to play under Mikel Arteta and join the project that was going on here. Now, here's a couple more from Aaron, who is not happy with me, as you can see by the start. Sorry, Charles, I thought you were bang on all year for years. To be fair, you stepped out of line and were wrong for the first time and in your opening minute. It's just in response to yesterday's video where I was saying that I would have probably given it to Declan Rice player of the season just ahead of a Martin Odegaard. But I did say it was flip of the coin type thing. You said, yes, Declan was a great signing and great player this season, but no, he still actually isn't at the level of Odegaard. Odegaard may have slipped off for 1 or 2 games, but he makes it all tick. Only if we had 2 of him. We are blessed to have him. Odegaard, when announced, totally makes sense. Now all push on and push each other. And then Nicholas there below says, hi, Charles, comment suggestion for next season. Could you perhaps track the weekly player ratings? And then at the end of the season, we can see who has the highest tally and know the true player of the season. I'm not sure my player ratings would be the true player of the season, if you see what I mean, if that's what you're talking about. And then you said, love Martin's seasons, but feel over 38 games, Rice and Saliba probably edged it. And that's Nick from Cape Town. So a couple of difference in opinions. And in terms of you, Aaron, look, as I said, I'm not going to sit here and complain about Martin Odegaard getting player of the season. He was absolutely brilliant. The 2 of them were my top 2, him and Rice. As I said, it was a bit of a flip of a coin. I probably would still just edge towards Rice, but Odegaard was brilliant and he deserves it as well. The fact he has got it, I'm not sitting here complaining about it. The 2 of them were fantastic. As I said yesterday, the fact that you had those 2, you had Saliba, you had Saka and Gabriel, who weren't even named in the top 3 and easily could have been, in my opinion, as well. Ben White didn't even get into the contention. And, when you have all of those players playing that well during the season, then that can only be a good thing for Arsenal. So I'm absolutely not complaining about the fact that Martin Odegaard's got it. And as I said yesterday, one of the best, if not the best piece of the transfer business, not just by Arsenal, but by pretty much any Premier League club in the last few years. An absolute bargain in today's modern crazy prices, £35 million. You just don't get much better than that. Okay, here's one from Jack. Says, hi, Charles. Odegaard deserves player of the season for me, although I admit that he's my favourite current Arsenal player, so maybe I'm a bit biased. So another one for Odegaard then. But then he continues, this is important. He says, on another topic, I find the English media newspapers using Saka's picture to be used as a scapegoat for the defeat against Iceland when he only played a few minutes. Absolutely disgusted. Hope it won't affect him too much. Watching daily from Laos. It's from Tommy. Now, I'm sure you're probably aware of this. Now, I didn't spot this before I did my video yesterday, so I didn't speak about it on the video in the morning, but I've seen it, and during the afternoon, more and more people picked up on it, and it was doing the rounds on social media, like a collage of the back pages in English newspapers after England's defeat to Iceland. Now, you can see some of them down below there. Saka's face is just all over the back of it. All the defeats, all the papers were just sort of zoomed in, focused in on Saka as the image for England's defeat. He only came on in the 65th minute yesterday. Now, Ian Wright, the legend that is Ian Wright, the absolute national treasure that is Ian Wright, has spoken out about this, and other people have, and absolutely rightly so, because it's a disgrace that Saka has been targeted, really, like this. Right, he said, look, now more than ever, let's get behind and support these young people. We can all see what's happening and who's being set up to be the face of a defeat. We are going to be gaslit with explanations and justifications, but those deciding who goes on the back page knows what they're doing. Let's keep our energy focused on giving these players pure love and support through the tournament. He's absolute, as he always is, about pretty much everything that he talks about, Ian Wright. Absolutely bang on. It's a joke. Everyone has to do better. when it comes to something like this. I do not understand how, and you can say, so, I mean, I'm sure the people who have been laying everything on the back pages and the sub editors and everything like that, and this isn't a journalist at all by any way, but just in case people get confused, journalists don't design the newspapers, they don't do the headlines or anything like that. They'll write the stories. You read the journalist stories inside the match reports and things like that. None of it is going to be about Bukayo Saka. It's just, this is all how it's been designed on pages, in the offices, not at Wembley by the journalists in the press box. It's been done in offices back in London, wherever their head office is of all these papers. And it's been the sub-editors, the editors, the sports editors who have been proofreading the pages, all of that. The fact that so many of the papers have focused in on these pictures of Bukayo Saka. So you have to do better. You have to think about it. Even if it's done and it's not a deliberate act, you have to think about the sort of what this is going to cause when you look at it and think, why are we focusing in on Bukayo Saka here, who came on for 25 minutes with nothing to do with the defeat? It just sends out totally the wrong message. Everyone has to be better. And again, like Righty says, it just feels like, and it feels like, I'm sure Saka will be okay about this, by the way, because he's such a strong character. He's seen it all before, unfortunately, which is a joke anyway, because he shouldn't have had to deal at all with anything that he's had to deal with. But he's such a strong character. He will be okay. I'm sure he'll be okay with this. And he will have so much support around him because he has just excellent support, whether that be at England or whether that be with Arsenal. But as I said, just everyone has to be better than this. And it just does look like, again, the same old story in England at times, the same people being set up to be the fall guys for anything that goes wrong. And it's just not good enough. People have to have more responsibility. It's genuine. I couldn't believe it when I saw these pictures doing the rounds yesterday. Is that where is, and when Righty says, we'll get explanations and justifications, I haven't even heard those yet or seen those yet about why these pictures have been used in so many of the papers, where it all seems to be focused in on one guy. It's just not good enough. And yeah, that's what it's just not good enough. It's as simple as that. And hopefully some lessons can be learned from this going into the tournament, because if England do lose, again, we know what's going to happen. There's going to be huge fallout, and it cannot be the same old story that we've seen time and time again of the same people being targeted for it as well. Everyone has to do better. Everyone has responsibility here. And yeah, it's a real shame what happened there after the England game. And hopefully lessons will be learned from it. Look, everyone, thank you very much for watching and for listening. I appreciate your time as always. I'll be back tomorrow, start of a new week, start of the Euros week. In fact, to do it all over again. Anything you want me to discuss in tomorrow's show, anything you want to respond to that you've seen in today's show, let me know, as always, in the comments below. Getting close to 100,000 subscribers, I've seen now. Very, very close to 100,000 subscribers. Who knows, by the time I do tomorrow's show, I might be at that landmark. And there will be something special coming for that as well, for you guys to get involved in potentially and get your hands on some Arsenal like goodies that I will be giving away, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But until then, everyone, have a fantastic end to your weekend, and I'll speak to you very, very soon. Goodbye.